Some men are born in fire, and instead of burning, they learn how to control the flame. Here's the raw truth nobody wants to admit. Not every warrior is forged on a battlefield. Some are built right at the dinner table in a home full of emotional landmines and psychological warfare disguised as family love. Studies show that children raised in toxic environments often develop heightened emotional intelligence. But for Sigma males, it goes deeper. They're not just survivors, they're system breakers. While others melt or conform under pressure, the Sigma male mutates, emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually, into a self-reliant, sharp-thinking anomaly that doesn't fit into anyone's box, especially not the one his toxic family tried to stuff him in. And let's be honest, if trauma built mansions, the Sigma male would be running a real estate empire by now. But what's fascinating isn't the pain he went through, it's what that pain produced. In today's video, we're peeling back the layers of what it truly means when a Sigma male is born into a toxic family. Not the sugar-coated version, not the generic "he had it tough but turned out strong" cliché. No, we're talking about the hidden superpowers, the brutal awakenings, the psychological armor, and the genius coping systems he develops that most people can't even comprehend. Buckle up, this one isn't a sob story, it's a survival manual disguised as insight. Number 1, he learns to listen to what's not being said. Growing up in a house where "I love you" could be followed by a sarcastic jab, or worse, complete silence, teaches a Sigma male to treat speech like a suspect alibi. He discovers that tone, micro-pauses, and how someone grips a mug reveal more truth than 1,000 apologies. While his siblings argued over what Dad really meant, he was clocking the foot tap that predicted the blow-up 5 minutes before it happened. Survival hacks mature into a life skill so refined it looks supernatural. Here's the twist. Decoding silence isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Every sigh, strategic blink, and quick subject change gets filed in a mental database. Over time, he builds an internal algorithm that flags inconsistencies faster than facial recognition software. People call it intuition, he calls it data. The power comes with side effects. Small talk is agony because he hears the tension under every word like static before a storm. Say, "I'm fine," while your shoulders sag, and he'll hear the emergency siren behind the sentence. That's why his circle is tiny and blunt. He's tired of translating vibes into polite fiction. The aha moment? Most conflicts explode not from what was said, but from what was swallowed. The Sigma male can reroute that disaster early. You'll notice your eyes flinch at a budget number. Ask the question nobody wants on record and save the project before HR smells smoke. He's the quiet guy who prevents loud crises, and the gift is portable. Restaurants, first dates, border control lines, he scans posture shifts like TSA scans luggage. It isn't mind reading, it's literacy in a language everyone speaks yet few study. That literacy turns meetings into chessboards where he is 3 moves ahead, not because he's psychic, but because he heard the move hiding in the pause. The skill cost nothing but childhood anxiety and now pays compound interest everywhere. Colleagues label it uncanny. Lovers find it disarming, competitors call it unfair. He just shrugs. In a verbal minefield, he learned one law: the loudest truth usually walks in silently, and whoever hears it first owns the room. Bonus irony, his radar isn't limited to darkness. He also senses quiet loyalty, the small glow that never asks for applause. That's why when he finally relaxes, it's with people whose silence hums at the same frequency. He jokes he could launch an unspoken analytics app. His friends say it would bankrupt every online lie detector. Number 2, he doesn't idolize family, he redefines it. The Sigma male doesn't romanticize family ties just because DNA says so. He learned early that some of the most dangerous people you'll ever meet share your last name. When manipulation, guilt-tripping, favoritism, or flat-out betrayal came from the people who were supposed to love him unconditionally, the illusion shattered. So instead of clinging to the traditional idea that family is sacred, he decided something revolutionary. Family is earned, not assigned. He stops idolizing the family he was born into and starts building one that makes sense. One where respect isn't demanded but mutually given. One where love isn't conditional on obedience, silence, or emotional servitude. He doesn't chase bonds that leave scars. He simply walks away with quiet finality from those who expect loyalty but weaponize it the moment he sets a boundary. And here's the part most people can't grasp. He's not bitter. He's surgical. Cutting toxic ties isn't about hate, it's about protecting peace. When people hear he cut off his family, they imagine rebellion. What they don't see is the years of second chances, the ignored red flags, the moments he begged himself to believe they'd change. What they don't hear is the quiet decision to stop bleeding just to keep others comfortable. So instead of forcing broken connections to work, he redefines family on his own terms. A best friend who shows up without being asked, a mentor who respects his silence, a partner who listens without controlling. These people don't share his blood, but they share something better: alignment. His version of family isn't about tradition, it's about truth, and because he doesn't hand out that title lightly, the ones who make it into his inner circle feel like royalty. They're not there by accident or obligation, they're there because they proved through consistency and integrity that they belong. The Sigma male's story flips the script. Just because someone gave you life doesn't mean they get to poison it. And just because someone shares your genes doesn't mean they share your values. He's not anti-family, he's just pro-authenticity. And when he calls someone family now, it's not sentimental, it's sacred. Number 3, his independence is rooted in survival, not pride. Independence looks glamorous from the outside, like a man heroically choosing the solo path while everyone else walks hand in hand. But for the Sigma male, it didn't start as a choice. It started as a firewall. Picture a kid who kept lending his heart out only to watch it come back overdrawn. Promises bounced, secrets leaked, support revoked the second it became inconvenient. By the 5th, "I've got your back" turning into "oops, sorry, broke your spine," he figured out the math. Reliance minus reciprocity equals emotional bankruptcy. That's when survival instincts kicked in and rewired his definition of help to mean self-issued. So now people misread his self-sufficiency as arrogance, like he's allergic to teamwork. Hardly. He just remembers the surcharge that came with every handout. Hidden agendas, guilt receipts, favors weaponized at the worst moment. Those memories are tattooed on the underside of his eyelids. He can't blink without seeing them. It's not pride telling him to refuse a safety net. It's the trauma invoice labeled "never again." Here's the irony that floors most observers. He's actually generous. He'll loan you a solution, a skill, even rent-free real estate in his calendar, because he knows what it feels like to have nobody. But the generosity flows one way until credibility proves it deserves a return ticket. That's the survival logic. Give without attaching strings, yet never tie your own parachute to someone else's shaky ethics. His independence is basically a seatbelt he designed after too many human airbags failed to deploy. The "I'd rather crawl alone" line isn't dramatic flair, it's a strategic call. Crawling on your own power hurts, sure, but at least you control the pace and direction. Being carried by someone who might drop you halfway, or worse, parade you as proof of their benevolence, hurts in ways that echo for years. Crawling heals the knees, betrayal fractures the psyche. What most people don't see is the peace tucked inside that rugged autonomy. When you know you can shoulder your own storms, every genuine ally becomes a bonus, not a necessity. That flips relationships from transactions to true connections. No one holds leverage over him because he's already paid the price of self-reliance in full. So yes, to the casual eye, he's too independent. But independence is simply the invoice stamped paid after surviving debts of misplaced trust. Call it pride if you want. He calls it purchased freedom, and trust him, the interest on that investment was brutal, but the dividends are pure serenity. Number 4, he escaped a rigged system so he never plays by it again. Growing up in a toxic clan is like being tossed into a carnival game that's secretly glued. No matter how perfectly you aim, the ring never lands on the bottle. The Sigma male figures that out before puberty. The rules were never designed for him to win, only to keep him spinning and paying in time, energy, and self-worth. So he does the most subversive thing possible. He stops playing. He pries off the carnival wristband, hops the fence, and marches straight into open terrain where the odds aren't preloaded against him. That jailbreak rewires his brain in 2 critical ways. First, approval becomes background noise. Like elevator music, he can't even hear anymore. The relatives who once dangled praise like oxygen lost their power the moment he realized the tank was empty. He now breathes self-validation. It's free, portable, and never expires. Second, permission dies a loud death. The family's gatekeepers used to stamp every dream with red ink. Too risky, too strange, too big. He stole the stamp, burned it, and decided his own green lights are the only ones that count. That's why outside observers think he's allergic to authority. Really, he's just immune to crooked referees. Here's the kicker. Walking away from a rigged game doesn't make him lawless. It makes him an architect of new rules. His code is simple but unbreakable: integrity over optics, peace over approval, freedom over familiarity. He'll collaborate, sure, but only with people whose rules aren't dripping in fine print. If a workplace or relationship starts to smell like the old carnival, hidden fees, moving goalposts, applause meters, he ghosts faster than you can say family reunion. It's not rebellion, it's relapse prevention. The payoff, velocity. While others waste decades greasing squeaky wheels just to stay tolerated, he's sprinting on roads he paved himself. He launches projects without asking for a committee blessing, loves without seeking likes, and exits any environment that measures worth by obedience. Critics call him mercurial, he calls it learned efficiency. Why spend life negotiating with a system that was pre-programmed to shrink you? So when someone waves a shiny trophy and says, "Jump through our hoops," he smiles, pockets his own set of keys and walks away. Better to build a world where the game isn't fixed than to master one that is. Number 5, trust is a foreign language he decodes alone. Trust to the Sigma male is less a warm embrace and more an encrypted file marked top secret. As a kid, the very people assigned to guard his heart treated it like a scratch pad for their own dramas. Promises edited mid-sentence, boundaries erased, loyalties penciled in and rubbed out before bedtime. He didn't respond with tears. He responded with a mental Rosetta Stone, translating every grin, pause, and, of course you can tell me anything, into measurable probabilities of betrayal. While classmates swapped friendship bracelets, he was running silent risk assessments. If I share this, what's the fallout? Who profits if I break? That algorithm never turns off. Offer him a confidant seat, and he'll smile politely while scanning for hidden tripwires. Tone inconsistencies, past behavior, the way you treat waitstaff when you think nobody important is watching. It isn't paranoia, it's forensic accounting for emotional assets. Opening up is expensive, and he's done being audited by frauds. If your ledger shows even a hint of creative bookkeeping, exaggerated stories, subtle guilt hooks, his vault door stays shut. Yet here's the plot twist. Beneath that steel hatch is astonishing generosity. Once your credibility hits critical mass, he'll share intel that could rewrite your life. But the password isn't charm, it's consistency. Cancel plans once, fine, twice, noted, 3 times, access revoked. He treats reliability like gravity, mess with it and the whole orbit collapses. The payoff for those who earn clearance is huge. He's not leaking gossip, he's handing over strategies, vulnerabilities and unpolished truths you won't hear elsewhere. And because he's allergic to manipulation, you'll never wonder if strings are attached. His code, don't trade secrets you wouldn't defend in court. Critics call him guarded, he prefers selectively transparent. There's no pride in secrecy, just muscle memory from years of emotional pickpockets. Dependability for him isn't a romantic ideal. It's the difference between thriving and bleeding out. So when he finally speaks without the risk calculator humming, understand it for what it is, a medal of trust minted from every scar he refused to let harden into cynicism. You're not just hearing words, you're accessing a language he taught himself, in the dark, so he could one day speak it to the few who actually listen. Number 6. He doesn't just break cycles, he builds new standards. He's allergic to the family's hand-me-down rulebook that says, this is how we've always done it, so shut up and get in line. Instead of correcting a few typos in that outdated manuscript, he tossed the whole thing into a metaphorical shredder, then used the confetti as packing material for his one-way shipment out of the past. Breaking the cycle isn't the end game, that's just demolition day. What fires him up is construction, pouring fresh concrete where old cracks used to trip everyone, drafting blueprints no ancestor had the guts or emotional bandwidth to sketch. The first standard he lays is silence that heals, not hides. In the old house, quiet was punishment, the calm before emotional artillery. Now silence is his spa day for the soul, proof you can breathe without somebody timing your inhales. Next, he upgrades loyalty. Forget bloodlines, the new metric is reciprocity. Show up, speak straight, respect boundaries, welcome to the legacy. Miss the mark? No hard feelings, but the elevator only goes up for travelers who clear the honesty checkpoint. Conflict gets a rewrite too. Guilt trips, shouting matches, Cold War standoffs archived. Disagreements in his world come stamped with timestamps, clear requests, and a mutual plan to exit the room with everyone's dignity intact. It feels weirdly adult. like upgrading from dial-up drama to fiber optic clarity. But once people try it, they never want the buffering back. Humor earns its own claws. In the old script, laughter hid razor blades. Now it's a pressure valve, not a weapon. If the joke aims below the belt, it flunks the new code. And speaking of belts, he tightens rules around self-respect until they're snug enough to keep the whole operation standing upright, even on days motivation leaks. Future relatives won't inherit unresolved baggage. They'll inherit operating manuals on boundaries, authenticity, and peace. He's not just breaking a toxic loop, he's installing a totally new operating system, the kind that auto-updates before malware can even knock. Here's the kicker. These standards aren't negotiable fine print. They're carved into bedrock. He'll walk alone before downgrading the firmware just to keep someone comfortable. Call it stubborn if you like. He calls it future-proofing because legacies aren't built by echoing the past. They're built by drafting blueprints bold enough to bury it. Number 7. He develops a razor-sharp BS radar. Growing up in a home where truth was always on probation forced the Sigma male to hone his senses the way a locksmith hones picks. Quietly, repeatedly, until every click tells a story. He never set out to become Sherlock. He simply had to know which bedtime story was bait and which promise might cost his dignity. So he started logging tiny tells. The half-second latency before a yes. The eyebrow that sails north when someone claims innocence, the way a voice sharpens on certain words like a chef testing knife edges. One childhood, 1,000 micro-lessons, and suddenly he can read a room faster than most people glance at the exit sign. The real magic is that his radar isn't fueled by cynicism, it's powered by pattern recognition. He's not scanning for villains, he's scanning for consistency. If your actions match your words, the system stands down. If they don't, sirens inside him light up like a pinball machine. He won't call you out instantly. Confrontation is amateur hour. Instead, he'll let the fib unravel under its own gravity while he adjusts his distance accordingly. No drama, just data-driven boundaries. This hyper-acuity has upsides most people miss. He becomes a human safe zone for the bluntly honest. Artists, innovators, anyone tired of surface-level pleasantries. They know he sees through facades anyway, so they drop the act and speak real. That authenticity exchange isn't just refreshing, it's productive. Meetings that would take others weeks of politeness take him 20 minutes because nobody wastes oxygen selling glitter. Of course, the gift carries a tax. Small talk sometimes feels like wading through syrup. He can taste the artificial sweetener. And romantic dating apps are basically carnival mirrors. Fun for a swipe, useless for a reflection. But he accepts the solitude premium because the alternative is living in a fog of half-truths, and he'd rather hear one ugly fact than 1,000 airbrushed lies. Call it a superpower if you want, but to him it's muscle memory. You don't praise a firefighter for noticing smoke, you thank him for acting before the room burns. Likewise, when his BS radar beeps, he's already reaching for the nearest exit, or the nearest ally who speaks fluent honesty. The radar also names its price in humility. If it ever pings on his own inconsistencies, he corrects course immediately because credibility is the only currency he refuses to counterfeit. Number 8. He treats peace like a survival necessity. Chaos was his childhood anthem, screaming matches at breakfast, silent treatments at dinner, emotional grenades lobbed during the credits. So while everyone else romanticized true love, he was busy learning that a quiet room and an untangled mind are the real luxury items. Peace for him isn't some spa day perk. It's life support. Think of it as oxygen, invisible, vital, and something you notice only when it's ripped away. That's why his radar for drama is calibrated to dog whistle frequencies, one whiff of needless chaos, and he's already headed for the fire exit, latte still steaming. It's not that he hates people, he just knows pandemonium is contagious. He watched relatives infect each other with temper tantrums, backhanded compliments, and rolling blackouts of accountability. Over time, he realized the cure isn't winning arguments or fixing anyone. The cure is distance. As a result, his life now runs on a strict no-noise policy. Gossip, mute, passive-aggressive sighs, airlock, guilt trip invitations, marked spam, and auto-deleted. Of course, this boundary freaks some folks out. They expect negotiations, grand apologies, second chances, tiny drama installments you can pay off later. He's not Visa. There's no revolving credit line with him. Break the peace once and you're escorted off the premises with a smile and a mental note that simply reads, "Never again." That sounds harsh until you understand the economics. It takes him days to recalibrate after even one pointless clash. And those days could have been spent on creativity, quiet laughs, or actual rest. Here's the aha moment most people miss. By treating peace like a non-negotiable survival need, he turns every interaction into a conscious choice. If you're in his space, it means you passed the vibe audit. Congrats, you're trustworthy caffeine for his soul rather than an anxiety energy drink. And because he safeguards serenity so fiercely, moments with him feel weightless, no tiptoeing, no hidden conflicts, just clear air where conversations can breathe. Sprinkle in humor and the policy gets even sharper. He'll joke that his version of Netflix and chill is literally Netflix and chill. Volume at 20, phone on airplane mode, existential dread postponed until Monday. If that sounds boring, you're clearly addicted to background drama the way some people are addicted to background TV noise. He'll wish you well somewhere else. Meanwhile, he'll be at home, basking in the priceless comfort of silence that doesn't threaten to explode. Number 9. He builds his own identity from the ground up. In toxic families, you're not raised, you're cast. There's the golden child, the scapegoat, the emotional punching bag, the invisible one who's only noticed when someone needs something. Each role is handed out like a costume, and if you try to step out of character, the whole dysfunctional theater turns on you. The Sigma male sees through the performance early. He realizes the roles are rigged to keep him small, compliant, predictable. So instead of perfecting a part he never auditioned for, he does the unthinkable. He rejects the script entirely. This isn't some rebellious teenage tantrum, it's a calculated, conscious rebellion of the soul. He chooses exile over performance, even if it means walking alone with nothing but the emotional wreckage of what he's just walked away from. He's not naive, he knows there's no applause waiting for him outside the family bubble, but what he craves isn't applause, it's authenticity. From those emotional ashes he starts rebuilding, slowly, quietly, and on his own terms. Not with borrowed traits or inherited dysfunction, but with values he personally tests and approves. He questions everything. What do I believe that wasn't planted in me by fear or guilt? What do I want, not what was expected of me? What parts of me were buried just to keep the peace? The answers don't come all at once, but every brick he lays in his new identity feels like liberation. And here's where the Sigma magic kicks in. He doesn't replace one role with another, he becomes fluid. One day he's the strategist, the next he's the artist, the wanderer, the teacher, the creator. His identity isn't rigid, it evolves because it's real. He gives himself the permission his family never would, to grow, to change, to unbecome what they tried to make him. This is why people can't pin him down. He doesn't behave how a man should. He doesn't echo his past. He doesn't cling to familiar dysfunctions like their personality traits. He reinvented himself outside the system that once defined him, and now he's untouchable in the best way. He doesn't fear rejection, because he's already survived being misunderstood by the people who claim to love him most. He's not healing to return to the family table. He's building a new table, solid, quiet, unshakable, and only those who value truth over tradition get a seat. Number 10. He doesn't just cut people off, he cuts out patterns. When a Sigma male cuts ties, it's not some impulsive act of bitterness. It's an act of precision. He's not flailing with scissors, he's performing emotional surgery. Most people think he's just cutting off a toxic aunt, a manipulative parent, or a fake sibling, but what they don't realize is this: he's actually cutting out patterns that have rotted through generations. Emotional blackmail, silent expectations, performative love, these aren't just behaviors, they're inherited viruses. And the Sigma male doesn't take a painkiller, he goes in for extraction, because he understands something most people refuse to face. Dysfunction runs in circles, it loops, festers, and repeats until someone has the nerve to say, "This ends with me." That someone is him. When he walks away, it's not a sprint, it's a cleanse. He's not just dodging toxic birthdays or ghosting group chats. He's breaking neural patterns, rewriting beliefs, and detoxing from emotional addiction. That's why it looks cold from the outside. Healing often does, especially when it's not performative. And no, it's not about revenge. He's not trying to punish anyone. He's just no longer available to play a role in a system designed to keep him emotionally enslaved. The guilt trips don't land anymore. The manipulation scripts don't trigger. The expectation to be the bigger person now feels like a scam to keep him small. He doesn't want payback. He wants peace. And to get it, he has to burn the bridge and the blueprint it was built from. This is what makes him different from those who just distance themselves. They leave people but drag the same patterns into new relationships, not the Sigma. He's a one-man lineage disruptor. He studies the blueprint, finds the leak, and welds it shut. That's why his energy feels rare, because it is. You're not just meeting someone who escaped dysfunction. You're meeting someone who refused to replicate it. So when he exits, it's not dramatic. It's final. And it's surgical. Clean cuts, zero theatrics, no need for applause. He just quietly removes what doesn't align, and in doing so, he liberates not just himself, but every future version of him that would have had to inherit that emotional debris. That's not cruelty, that's legacy correction, that's power. Number 11. He learns power isn't loud, it's controlled. In toxic families, power is usually loud. It's whoever yells the hardest, guilt trips the deepest, or controls the narrative fastest. It's chaos mistaken for strength, volume confused for authority. The Sigma male sees through that circus early. While everyone else battles for the loudest spotlight, he quietly studies the game and then steps out of it entirely. He realizes that true power doesn't need to stomp into a room. It arrives unbothered and unshakable without saying a word. You see, he grew up watching emotional tantrums masquerade as leadership. One parent weaponized silence, the other turned tears into control levers. Arguments weren't about truth, they were battles of endurance where the loudest won by exhaustion. The Sigma male absorbed this chaos like secondhand smoke until he coughed it all out and chose something completely different. Control over reaction, not people. His power doesn't spike, it stabilizes. He doesn't raise his voice, he raises the standard. He doesn't threaten, he simply exits. He doesn't chase loyalty, he sets boundaries so clearly that only the genuinely aligned stick around. While others perform dominance, he practices it internally, by choosing when to speak, when to walk away, and when to let silence do the heavy lifting. That silence is not passive, it's loaded. It says, I heard you, I saw the game, I'm not playing. And when he enforces his peace without theatrics, it's jarring for those who expect conflict as currency. They can't bait him because nothing in him is reactive. That's the kind of control most people pretend to have on social media. He actually lives it. This shift from loudness to presence changes every room he walks into. He doesn't dominate with charisma or crowd-pleasing smiles. He dominates with calm, with the ability to withstand emotional bait without flinching, with the confidence to say, this is my line, and mean it, without slamming the door, just quietly locking it. And this is what makes him truly dangerous in the best way. You can't predict him, you can't rattle him, and you sure as hell can't control him. Because when your power comes from self-mastery, you don't need permission to enforce it, and you never, ever have to prove it. Number 12. He never feels entitled to love, so he makes himself whole. Love was never served at his dinner table, only rationed approval and occasional guilt stew. He learned early that affection can vanish faster than Wi-Fi in a storm, so he stopped begging. Instead of lamenting the empty pantry, he opened an emotional food truck and became head chef, sous chef, and health inspector all at once. The first recipe he mastered was self-respect, equal parts boundaries and honesty, slow-cooked until no outside opinion could curdle it. Next came curiosity, because growth tastes better than pity. Dessert? A daily slice of humor baked from the absurdity of ever expecting toxic people to feed him in the first place. By the time most teenagers were hunting for validation like loose change, he was already self-catering a 5-course inner life. Here's the shocker. That self-sufficiency doesn't harden him. It magnetizes. People flock to the unneedy the way tourists flock to free Wi-Fi because calm is rare and rare is irresistible. They feel safer around someone who won't drown them in emotional invoices. He's the friend who shows up without keeping score, the partner who loves without leaning, the colleague who can celebrate your promotion without secretly auditing his own worth. Yet he treats the attention like background music, pleasant, ignorable, never controlling the dance floor. He knows admiration can flip to entitlement quicker than you can screenshot a compliment. So he keeps his identity locked on airplane mode. If you stay, great. If you bounce, also great. Stability isn't a group project, it's home field advantage. Critics will mutter that he's aloof, commitment-phobic, even arrogant. Wrong menu, he simply refuses to trade the sovereignty he earned for a lukewarm promise someone else might overcook. Loving him is optional, loving himself is mandatory, and he never confuses the two columns on that ledger. The aha moment. Wholeness isn't the absence of need, it's the presence of reliable self-supply. By building an internal ecosystem that runs on self-generated power, he converts childhood scarcity into adult abundance. So while others sprint through life waving "love me" banners, he strolls, hands-free, inventory stocked. Invite him to the codependence potluck and he'll politely pass, citing a full plate and zero appetite for reheated drama. And the irony is delicious. The emptier his cup used to be, the more it overflows now. And he won't spill a drop to win anyone's applause. That's his final recipe: self-replenishing abundance, zero dependence, unlimited shelf life, served calm. Strip away the drama, the guilt contracts, and the bumper sticker wisdom. And what's left is a man who hacked his own origin story. Every toxic trick thrown at him became raw material. Silence sharpened his radar. Chaos taught him to worship peace. Hunger forged self-sufficiency. And betrayal rewired him for surgical boundaries. He doesn't just avoid the family circus, he burned the tent, rewrote the safety code, and now rents the vacant lot to people who understand the new terms. Honesty, reciprocity, calm. That's the magic nobody sees coming. While others waste decades untangling the same old knots, he sprints forward powered by lessons learned the hard way, no applause required. His life is a quiet demonstration that you're not doomed by your DNA, your dinner table politics, or the titles you were handed as a kid. You can torch the rigged script, build fresh standards, and pull future generations out of the chaos without ever raising your voice. So here's the takeaway worth carving on a steel plate. The ultimate flex isn't proving the past wrong, it's making it irrelevant. When you become the source of your own stability, the architect of your own legacy, and the guardian of your own peace, every inherited curse stops with you. And that, my friend, is how you turn toxic beginnings into a blueprint that no one else has the authority or the volume to rewrite. If this hit you deep or opened your eyes in ways most content never does, don't just scroll past. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss videos that speak truth, not fluff. Like the video if you felt even a flicker of "finally someone gets it." Drop a comment and share your story. We read them all. And most importantly, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's quietly breaking cycles and building themselves from scratch. This isn't just content. This is a movement for the ones who refuse to be defined by where they came from. And if that's you, welcome home.